John Howard, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you.
In all your years as Prime Minister, did you ever secretly appoint yourself to other ministries?
No, I didn't.
We know Scott Morrison did it 5 times. What possible justification could there be?
Well, that's a matter for him.
Well, you're a former Prime Minister and a grandee of the party.
That doesn't give me some special right to pontificate on what some of my successors have done. Look, Scott Morrison has talked about this, he's contextualised it, and I think everybody, particularly the current Prime Minister, should get on with the present and the future. I say to Mr Albanese, stop behaving like an opposition leader. You won the election. Let's hear a bit of government from you.
Perhaps your instincts as a senior Liberal are to protect the party, I understand that, but as both a Conservative and someone who believes in parliamentary conventions, how big a breach was this?
Look, I'm not going to pontificate. There are reasons why he did it, and part of the Conservative tradition is to always understand the context in which things occur.
I don't think that belongs to the Conservatives.
No, but it's not denied to the Conservative.
Indeed. But as someone who has held that position, can you conceive of such a thing, of secretly appointing yourself to ministerial positions without telling your colleagues?
Sarah, good try, but look, I've indicated that it's a matter for Scott to explain and contextualise. I think most people, and allow me an expression of this opinion, most people are going to say, well, that's interesting, but let's get on with the present and the future.
I think there's a number of people in your own party who are calling on Scott Morrison to resign from Parliament. Should he at least do that?
No, I don't think he should do that. Apart from anything else, it's not in the interest of the Liberal Party to have a by-election at the moment in a very safe seat, particularly as in the state of New South Wales we will face a state election in the early part of next year. So if anybody cares about my party, the Liberal Party, then the last thing I'll do is be requesting unwanted by-elections.
That sounds like an answer based in expediency when this is a matter of principle.
Well, you say it's a matter of principle. It's up.
You don't think it is?
No, I don't think it's something that is so reeking with principle as to require an unwanted, expensive, unnecessary by-election.
But all those years where you talked about the importance of conservatism and convention and respecting the Parliament, this doesn't trouble you?
Well, one of the things that I respect is that if you elect somebody for 3 years, you have a reasonable expectation they'll serve a substantial part of it, and I see absolutely no reverence for convention in seeking a by-election unnecessarily in a quite safe Liberal seat so early in the term to which Mr Morrison has been re-elected.
Do you understand why the Governor-General waved it through?
I don't think any criticism can be offered of the Governor-General because there is on the face of it, and I don't think this would be disputed by on-depth analysis, nothing illegal. So in those circumstances, the true Conservative principle is that he should act on the advice of his ministers.
It's a legacy for your party, however, which is now in the process of tearing itself apart to some degree.
I don't want to be combative, and I know you
nor
don't
do
want
I,
to be
sir.
combative, but I thought we were going to talk about...
There are plenty of things to talk
yes,
about.
I know. Well, I don't want to suggest for a moment that I've been got on this program under false pretences.
No, we certainly asked you on this program to talk about some of the contents of your book.
Yes,
you would not deny me the opportunity
No,
to
I don't
ask you
deny because it's
an
a very
important-
free country, but I can point
Indeed.
out the sequence of events and I can give context to the questions that you're
Well,
asking.
let me ask you this. How do you think the public would have judged these secret manoeuvrings by the Prime Minister had they been exposed before the election, especially since there was clearly a perception of arrogance that had already settled amongst the voters?
I haven't the faintest idea. I couldn't possibly answer that.
Well, let's talk about that election. You do in the book. The emergence of the Teals gave many Liberal inner city voters a clear alternative to sitting Liberal MPs. What's the lesson from that for today's party?
Well, I think the lesson from that, and also the lesson from the fact that the primary vote of the winning party in this election at 32% it's the lowest since World War II, indicates that no side of politics can take a section of the electorate for granted. And it was an interesting election. The Greens did very well, and so did the Nationals. So there was no clear ideological message out of the election. I think anybody saying this election means the Liberals are on the slide, or the Labor Party's triumphant, or the Labor Party has reclaimed its heartland, you can't say any of those things.
But you accept that many of those people who voted for the Teals were people who had previously voted for your party?
Oh yes, I do accept that. I also know that many Labor people in hitherto safe Liberal seats deliberately voted for a Teal because they knew it was a waste of time voting Labor.
And how much of that move from your own voters, because you can't control what the Labor Party voters do, but amongst the Liberal voters, how much was that move to do with climate change?
I think some of it was. I think some of it was due to a feeling that the Liberal Party did not have a long-term plan for the future. I think the main reason we lost was that we didn't present a manifesto for the future. You've always got to offer a plan for the future, particularly if you are a party that's had a record of economic reform.
You remain, after all these years of mounting global evidence, a sceptic on climate change. Do you accept that this is now an issue on which elections are won and lost?
Oh, I think it influences elections, yes. But that doesn't mean that I've automatically got to change my view.
No, but
you can often continue to vote for the losing party. There were many faithful Labor voters in Australia who continued to vote Labor through the dark and dismal 60s, politically speaking, for them. They were wonderful years for Australia.
I wanted to talk to you about the voice, because the referendum, because it's going to be an important part of this term. You supported a referendum on constitutional recognition as far back as 2007. Should that be part of this coming referendum?
Well, I would prefer to have a referendum that would put into our constitution, the preamble, however you want to express it, something which recorded the undeniable historic truth that the first people on the land mass of the Commonwealth were Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. I think that would be something that all Australians could unite behind. The voice is far more problematic than that.
Do you think that history and voters, well, how do you think that history and voters will judge the coalition if they campaign against this referendum?
Well, I think it'll depend very much on what they say and what reasons are given. If they're convincing reasons, I think history will judge them either benignly or positively.
One thing you're very clear about in your book is your disapproval for Donald Trump. Would a second Trump presidency mean Australia would have to reconsider its commitment to ANZUS?
No.
You said he's wholly inappropriate, that his position is wholly inappropriate.
I do. But ANZUS is an arrangement that goes deeper than the current President of the United States.
Even a president who could potentially turn his back on Taiwan.
Well, Sarah, it goes deeper than any individual president because he can only serve for a certain period of time, or she. So my attitude to Donald Trump has been set in stone by his behaviour after he lost. Part of democracy is to accept results, even then when you don't like them. I didn't like losing in 2007, but I didn't carry on that I'd been cheated. And no doubt Paul Keating didn't like losing to me in 96 when he didn't say he'd been cheated.
And it didn't turn out that you'd appointed yourself to numerous ministries at the same time. Mr. Howard, that's all we have time for this evening, but thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.